and a client hasn't gone through this process. They've just seen a cool video and hit you up and said, I want this.
Yeah. As long as you do that little bit extra work at the start in pre-production, you're going to be miles ahead.
It shows that you don't really care. It's like, hey, can you just fill this out so that I can filter and decide whether I want to work with you or not?
Holy shit, like how much can we tip this guy? Because he did such an amazing job.
It then almost makes them feel okay with it too. Like they then become open to criticism also.
And then she's at the restaurant waiting for you and she's like, oh, hey, like what's going on? We were meant to have a date tonight and you didn't turn up. Oh, I didn't hear from you. The communication breakdown is the same with any client. Guys, welcome to the Kicking It Pod. I'm Quinn. This is Kenny. We are today in this podcast, we're talking about client experiences and how to deliver a good one.
An amazing client experience.
Like, where do you think you should start? For me, I think it would be setting expectations.
I agree. But for people that are starting out, I think the biggest fear initially is we all start, when you pick up a camera, you start working for free. Like you just want to shoot things. You want to shoot things. You want to find mates that you want to take photos of. And then there comes a point where you think, I should start charging for this. And when do I start charging for this?
Yeah.
Right? And there's a whole different expectation with the person that you shoot with when you're doing it for free compared to when they're paying for it. And it's understanding that there are expectations that come with a client when they start paying you. And then I think also when you are charging, people then think, I want to start raising my prices, because you start hearing about what you probably should be paying. You realize you're undercharging, but you're scared to raise your rates. And a lot of the time, if you understand that if you just create a great experience, it justifies your price to the client, and it also makes you feel confident about charging the rates that you know you're worth. When there's a whole process, you're treating the client the right way from beginning to end. There's a whole process, and people realize, okay, this is more than just the photos. You can start valuing yourself and charging a rate with confidence, and it is also justified to the client when they start working with you.
I'm also going to talk a lot about my failures, so that hopefully you learn from them.
Yeah, which is a good thing. And I think the whole point of every podcast is we give out a lot of lessons that we've run into along the way. And if people can just take like one or two things out of everything that we put out in each episode, I think that's a win.
Oh yeah, I'd be happy with that.
So sometimes not everything we say may relate to everybody.
Yeah.
But that one or two things may relate to whoever's listening. And if that's all you get out of each podcast, that's all we're trying to get out of these.
Yeah, definitely. We're just trying to help people learn from our mistakes, and then you'll get better and we'll get better, and everyone gets better. We're trying to like level everyone up. We're not just, we're not trying to gatekeep or anything. Like
exactly.
We're trying to help everyone, and ourselves. So
yeah, and I think we all work in different ways. Like our process, how you do your process
completely
is a lot different to mine.
Yeah.
And when someone starts working with you, they have no idea how you work.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times, most mistakes can be avoided, or a lot of the mistakes that I'm going to speak about today can be avoided by setting expectations early. Like when you first meet a client, they don't know what it's like working with you. They may have worked with another photographer or videographer, and that process may be completely different, or they may be coming into it fresh. I've had a lot of people going, how does this work? Tell me what the go is. And they usually come in with an expectation in their mind. So a lot of it is understanding what their expectation is, and then also pre-framing and letting them know this is how it's going to run. Therefore, you're not going to run into anything that you don't see coming.
Yeah, I think that, if we can get to the two biggest lessons or the two biggest takeaways, I think at least for me is one, setting expectations first, and then two, communication. Like with any relationship, communication is key. And then that's how you're going to set expectations and then have a really, really good client experience. And then they're going to recommend you to more people, and, everyone's happy. So
exactly. And it's not only about your expectations. So like you can come in, you're the client, and I can be like, I'm going to set the expectations for you. This is how things go. That's one side of it. But there's also knowing what your expectation is coming to me. Because when someone comes for creative services or any service really, they value certain things more so than others. Like some people may value speed. Like I just want this done quickly.
Yesterday.
I need it done, yesterday.
Yeah.
Others may want quality. Like, I don't care how long this takes. Take as long as you want, but I want it to be really, really, really good. And they're two very different clients. And if you don't find out what they value, they're going to have a terrible experience if you get it wrong. So,
and they're going to blame you.
Exactly. And then they blame you. So it's understanding what their expectation is coming in. What do they value? Do they value speed, time, quality? Maybe they just want it to be cheap. Some people just want a good rate.
Yeah. What's that? It's like with camera gear, right? You can have three pillars. So it can either be good quality, but it won't be done quickly. It can be done quickly, but it won't be good quality. Or it can be cheap, but it won't be.
You can only pick two.
Yeah, two of the three or
I've
something.
seen that pop up every now and then.
Yeah. So
Which is right.
Yeah, it depends what your client wants.
Yeah.
And what their budget is and will allow as well.
And figuring out what they do like. Because I've had clients. I've had one client who his goal was he was working with high profile people on socials who had big followings, and his approach was collaborations. He thought, if I make a great video with these clients and they're in it, they would want to collaborate with it or at least share it. So it needs to be really, really, really good so that they like it enough to share it on their page. And that was his growth strategy, which I think is great. So he would say, Kenny, I don't care how long it takes, like take your time with it. I just want it to be amazing because I want his client to like it enough to repost it.
Yeah.
Right? So I would take as long as I want for these videos, and I'd put all my time and effort and try and make it look as cool as I could. Whereas on the other end, I've had another client who he wanted quality, but he didn't mind that it was amazing as long as it looked professional enough.
Yeah.
He just wanted volume. He's like, I want to post every single day.
Yeah.
Like all the time. How can we find? And then the strategy was like, how can we find ways to create efficiently and create as many videos as we can? We might lose a little bit on quality, but he still thought if I'm doing it, it's still going to stand out amongst other content that's out there.
Yeah.
And that's what he valued. So two very different clients. And if I didn't understand what they wanted, I would have failed miserably.
But that was good on you as well, because you set expectations and you were like, okay, so this is what the client wants and this is what I can offer. And you met in the middle and you were like, yep, I can do this. And it's all worked out for the better.
And it is communication, right? Because there's so many times people, and we all get it. I don't know, especially in the video world. I want a 30-second video or a 15-second video, and that's all they think.
Yeah.
But then when you see the video that they want, because I'm always like, send me a reference of what you want. I need to know what kind of video is in your head. And some videos take a really, really long time. Yeah. Depending on what kind of video they want.
So long. You know, most creatives are like, yes, I can do that. Yes, man. But
exactly.
Knowing when to say no is a very important skill too. But anyway.
You're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
I'm like definitely. That too. You don't want to say no. When someone shows you something, you don't want to say that you can't do it.
Yeah. And then
and it's like, of course I can do that.
You do
man, good.
You just say, I think the old thing is like, say yes and then learn how to do it after.
Yeah.
I do that all the time.
So do I, but I don't think that's a good idea.
It's not. It's definitely not. I would not recommend that at all.
Yes, and it's setting expectation, like making people realize. This is something I learned too, right? Yeah. And if someone shows you an amazing video, I try and take a second, because I do this when I was learning on my own. I'd look at a video or a photo and I'd try to understand, why does this look so good? Like, why don't my photos look like that? But I'd try and figure it out. Like, why? Is it the lighting? Is it, what have they done? Is it the angles that they're shooting at? And a client hasn't gone through this process. They've just seen a cool video and hit you up and said, I want this.
Yeah.
So sometimes it is explaining it to them, like, do you know why this looks so good?
Yeah.
It's in an amazing location. Like, do we have access to a location like that? The lighting in here is immaculate. Do we have access to those lights? Because now once they understand that, you can now charge more, because you can go and rent those lights that you need. You can go and get that location that they want, and it starts justifying the price to them, rather than just saying yes and then not knowing how to do it and then setting yourself up to fail or giving them the end result. They're going to compare it to the Dior ad that they
what
saw.
The fuck is this?
They're like, what is going on?
Why did I pay you this?
Yeah.
Why did I pay you $250 for this when it doesn't look like this $1 million ad?
Exactly.
And you're like, oh.
And you've set yourself up for a terrible client experience.
Yeah. And then they never hire you again.
Yeah, they never come back because they're not happy. They didn't get what they were
And then they
after.
tell other people that they're not happy. And then all of a sudden it's like 6 months and you're out of work and you're like, oh, maybe this isn't for me.
Yep.
When it's just that.
True, bro. But that's the thing. If you said yes to saying you can do the Dior ad and then you deliver something that's not on that level, they're going to be really upset. However, if you were to say, hey, look, we don't have access to this location, we don't have these lights, unless you can increase your budget and we can start getting the things that you want, it starts making sense to them. And if they don't want to pay that, you can then, in that second instance, give them that video that's not as good as the Dior ad, but they're just as happy. They've had a great client experience because you've lowered the expectation and made them realize what they can get based on their budget.
Yeah. It's a very important skill for creatives to have is one, to be able to speak corporate, or to just be able to communicate properly to people who aren't creatives. Has there been any other times where you've exceeded client expectations, where they've gone, because this is another point where all of a sudden you deliver, you've set the expectation or whatever, but you've over delivered, you've under promised, over delivered, and then all of a sudden the next time that they get you, they expect that level plus a little bit more, and then they keep going, oh yeah, Kenny can do that, like he's a whiz, like all of this. Has there been a time like that where you've been like, oh, I wish I just sort of stuck to this level instead of giving a little bit more, because then it creates this snowball effect?
Yeah, you're right. I was a victim of that at the beginning because I just wanted to make them happy. I'd give them everything.
Yeah.
And like, just anything you want, just take it. I just wanted to be happy, but then you find that then becomes the new expectation.
Yeah.
And then they don't just want the video, they want the photos that come with it and the BTS video that comes with it as well. And that's where, again, like, it's good to have things in writing. So we've started saying, okay, this all has to be in an email so they know for this price you're getting 3 videos. Yeah, this, and this. They're going to be this long. And then that's the list of what they're getting for that price. Anything outside of that is just a bonus. So then when you do exceed expectations, it's like, oh, wow, I wasn't expecting that. Everyone knows that they didn't have to get that.
Yeah.
And then it becomes okay. Because you do want to, that's the thing, when you set an expectation, if you just do that, that's cool, but it's not very memorable. They're not really going to go and tell people about you.
Yeah.
They might if it's amazing, but still, it's those extra things that come unexpectedly that make people remember their experience with you, and then more than likely probably start talking about you when they leave. And I think that's an important piece. And it's what we were talking about earlier. If, depending on what you want, you can go to 2 different places and have a completely different experience.
Yeah.
And your expectations could be completely different if you go to 2 different places, even if you're looking for the same thing. So say you're going out for a feed at night and you could go to Macca's. You have an expectation when you walk into Macca's and you know what you're getting, you know how much it's going to cost, you know the level of service you're going to get, or you can go get a feed at a high-end restaurant.
Yep.
Right? You're getting a feed at both places, but at the high-end restaurant, you expect to get met at the front door. You expect to get seated. You expect the food to be good. If they do those things, it was expected. Like, you're going to leave and you're like, yeah, cool, that's what I came here for.
Yeah.
So in order for that high-end restaurant to exceed your level of expectation, they're going to have to do way more than that. You could have gone in and the chef could come out and personally greet you, right? Give you a free appetizer on the house before he starts. When you're trying to figure out what to have for dessert, say you're undecided, the waitress could be like, let me give you a little taste test of each one so that you can decide which one you want. All these little things are extras that you would have never expected, but it would have made you like these guys way more. On the way out, they could give you like some mints. Here's some mints for the road. Like, all these little touches you could easily do to any service, right? This is just a restaurant.
Yeah.
But if you do it with your creative service, all those little extra bits,
They add up.
and people will remember.
Yeah, I just had a flashback of you saying that. So I was in New York in Times Square with my ex, and we went to like one of the chain restaurants. It's called Bubba Gumps, and there was a guy in there. I can't remember his name. I swear it was like Tyler or something. But he like sat us down, got to know us, because they obviously all work on tips. And he got to know us so well. He did his research. He must have had like other Australians come in. He knew like around the area, other towns near our city that we lived. Like, He knew everything about Sydney. It was crazy how much he knew, and like remembering our names and everything, like just little things like that.
Yep.
He didn't have to give us anything free. He just went above and beyond with like good customer service, and that was enough for us to be like, holy shit, like how much can we tip this guy? Because he did such an amazing job. So it's the same thing. Like you don't even necessarily need to give free stuff as long as your communication is on point and you're making the client feel seen and you're making them feel good about the process. That in and of itself is like leaps and bounds above what some other creatives do, because we all get busy, and I am also at fault for doing this as well. You know, you send an email and then it gets lost in the feed, and then it's been like a few days or a week or whatever, and you're like, instead of checking up on that client and being like, oh, how'd you like the video, or blah blah blah, like did you like those revisions?
Yep.
You've got other clients to take care of, so you move on, and then all of a sudden it's been like, you know, 2 weeks. All of a sudden you're like, oh no, I thought we were good, like, you know, but yeah, it just breaks down. And it's tough. Yeah, it's communication is so big.
Yeah, I agree. And there's a little thing that I've noticed, especially on social media, that really annoys me, dude.
Yeah.
Like really annoys, and it comes down to communication. Have you seen? It's not just creatives; it's a lot of people that they're all freelancers.
Yeah.
From what I see.
Yeah.
They put up an Instagram story.
Yeah.
And they say, hey guys, hey clients, I've been so busy lately.
Oh, yes!
I will get back to you this week.
Yeah.
Imagine if you were a client, how shit would you feel if that was the way that the person that communicated to you?
Because they're too important to talk to you directly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You would feel so fucking shit.
You'd feel less than...
So many people do it. I don't know why. It makes no sense. And I feel that's the way that I got taught this is that like there's customer service and then there's customer experience.
Yeah.
Customer service is a reactive way to approach this. So customer service is like someone's upset and it's like, oh man, how can I help you? Sorry about that. Let me try and fix it. A lot of that is customer service. Like after the fact.
You want to empathize with them and make them feel seen.
Customer experience is proactive. It's what you do before the fact and not letting it get to that point.
Yeah.
So say someone put that story up and your client's pissed because they haven't heard from you, right? Because they haven't been communicated to. They're upset. Now you go into customer service role. Oh, sorry, man. I'm sorry I didn't get back to you for X amount of time. Let's try and catch up. Like these are all reactive approaches. There is no reason why. Before you leave, and a quick email. Hey, Sally, I'm going to be away from this date to this date.
Good old Sally. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're not going to be able to reach me. If there's anything urgent, you can reach me on this number. Do you need anything before I go? If not, you're going to hear from me on Wednesday next week. Like that's all that you would, the experience you get as a customer.
It's a personal touch, right?
You know, it's so different. It's night and day. And I don't understand why people do it.
Well, okay, to be that guy or whatever. Do you is that a tool that say creators use to maybe expand their perceived worth on social media
to show people that they're busy? I think so, but it's got a bad.
It's a shit way to do it.
Yeah.
Instead of. Because
reaching out to your clients,
yeah, well, I know you should do that.
You've got their number.
Even if you have 3 clients, you still should, if you have 50 clients, like the number shouldn't matter. You should have processes to be like, to treat everyone the same.
It really annoys me. It really does.
You should show, not tell. Like, just show all the BTS or whatever. If you're really busy, cool, do that.
Yep.
There's ways to do it.
But there's no reason why I can't tell you.
And keep in contact. Yeah.
Quinn, next week, I'm going to be busy, man. Like, on this day and this day.
Yeah, I remember you did tell me that. So that's great. Thank you for keeping me in the loop, bro. I really appreciate it.
Exactly.
Now I can make other plans. It's like a date, right? They're all relationships and personal, romantic, whatever. As long as you keep that communication high, people can live their lives and stuff. But if someone's hanging on and they're waiting to hear from you, it's really bad.
Yeah.
So imagine you're going on a date with a chick and she ghosts you or whatever, and you're like, oh, we've got plans tonight, but I haven't heard anything. And then you send her a text and she's just doesn't respond. And you're like, oh shit, should I still go? Like, I'm not sure if I should turn up to the restaurant, whatever. So you don't go. And then she's at the restaurant waiting for you and she's like, oh, hey, like, what's going on? We were meant to have a date tonight and you didn't turn up. oh, I didn't hear from you. That the communication breakdown is the same with any client. It's just
Yes.
like, oh, hey, I posted this reel. Oh man, that's another thing. So, I saw a great example of it. There's this bag company called OGIO or something, like not the insurance thing, but it's like Ogio or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There's this reel, and a few other creators and myself were commenting on it because they posted, and it wasn't rage bait, or it wasn't like I don't think it was a way to get reach on the reel because they disabled comments shortly after. It was like,
That's never a good sign.
it's never a good sign when you have to delete the comments and turn off comments. But they had this Australian basketball legend doing this bit for their bag brand or whatever, and everything was fine except it was just in log footage. It hadn't been color graded. So you scroll through their feed, and the one image that stands out amongst all others is this grey, no detail log footage of this great Australian basketballer talking about these bags or whatever.
Oh, no.
And I was like, oh, I didn't know that we didn't have to color grade anymore. Like, you know, and to deliver clients,
Couldn't
you still
help
get
yourself.
paid. Yeah, of course. And then like the bandwagon, I kept getting these notifications for like 2 days
Wow.
before they turned it off. They were deleting comments and stuff, and then we were all laughing. But it was like, there must have been a communication breakdown between the videographer or the editor and this brand,
posting
the marketing manager, whoever's posting, to be like, hey, that's not ready yet. I still need to grade it, or here's the second revision, or blah, blah, blah. They still posted it and then went about with their day. And then there's still a that was the communication breakdown. And it looks sloppy and it looks amateurish and all that sort of stuff. Plus, they turned off comments, and it was hilarious, man. There was 5 or 6 of us just blasting this thing.
Wow.
Anyway,
Yeah. Especially when you work with larger businesses, there's a whole
Yeah.
team that you have to communicate with. It's
that's
There's a lot of
that
people
can be
that
the
do
thing
that.
too. You're all of a sudden you're CC'd in with like the brand manager, the marketing manager, the social media manager. You're talking to all these different points of contact. And that's where another breakdown can happen, especially as like a sole, or if you're doing it on your own.
Yep.
It can get quite hard
yes
to keep all those.
I've felt that that's something that people should avoid too. I fell into this hole so many times.
Yeah.
Is when you have multiple clients, is letting them know how to communicate with you.
Yeah. Setting expectations.
Yeah, especially when we work better in blocks. So you have to have like focused periods of time where you're editing. Like you can't be interrupted. And it sounds stupid, but it's true. Like if you're stopping to take a call, you've taken your focus off, even if it's just a 5-minute call, you've had to stop, take that call. And then before you get back into like flow, you've lost 15, 20 minutes.
Yep.
Right. And that doesn't seem like much to
But
a client.
imagine if you have like
But
6
if you're
clients doing that.
constantly
Yeah.
being called
every
like
day.
all the time, and a
Yeah.
lot of clients don't realize, they think they're the only one. And you get, say there were 10 to 15 calls in a day. If you stopped to take every single phone call, you've lost hours in the day.
Yeah.
And whoever you were doing work for didn't get that time and attention. Say you're charging a half day rate, 2 hours of that time
gone on
was
calls.
spent taking calls for other people. So it's you can't take those calls, and then when you do, either the work starts slowing down, so you get put under the pump because you're back on work, or you're not answering calls and they're upset at you for not taking calls.
Yeah.
So it's setting an expectation. This is how you reach me, and explaining why. Like, this is why. It's like, Quinn, if I were to edit for you and there were other people calling me, would you want me taking their calls on your time? Because then your work isn't going to get done on time, and then you're going to be upset that I'm not delivering the work on time.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So when you call me, I'm probably doing work for someone else, and I can't take those calls because that's their time. And just explaining that as simply as that starts to make more sense to them, and you've set an expectation that then doesn't leave them upset if you're not taking a call. And then you say, if it is urgent, send me a text, send me an email, but I take everything in writing. Like, just put it in an email, tell me the date, tell me the time, when do you need it done by, and we can work from there. If there's anything urgent, we can get on a call, but understand it needs to be urgent. You can't just be calling me whenever you want.
It's a good idea too, because then you're putting onus back on the client to have accountability, because once they put it in writing, and because a lot of the times when you get those calls, they're just waffling and they want to feel important and everything, and that's fine. But once you get them to write everything down, and especially write down their ideas and what direction they want, then that sets up accountability so that when you do give them deliverables and everything, they can be like, oh, this is not what I wanted. You can refer back to the written word of the emails or whatever, or the contract, and be like, hey, well, this is what we decided on or agreed upon. Whereas like if you're just getting those calls and you're like, yeah, we can totally do that or whatever, and then you go to the end date, you give the deliverables, and they're like, oh, this is not what we decided. I called you 7 days ago about this, and you're just like, bro, I can't even remember yesterday. Like there's so many moving parts, sort of thing. So I personally think that like emails are good and probably the best way to communicate, just so that you have everything in writing, because this can be quite a finicky business. Emotions get hurt sometimes, like especially with I'm talking about weddings and stuff. Emotions are quite high and there's a lot of buyer's remorse, so emails and written stuff and contracts are very important.
Attention to detail needs to be put into a lot of these, and when they get overlooked, it can cause dramas later on. A lot of the times when something happens, I always look back and I'm like, I could have done something at the very beginning that could have avoided all of this almost every time.
Yes, yeah. It's like, if you and if you just do it from the start, you most of the time, like 90% of the time, you'll have no dramas down the line, because it's not. It's usually what happens is you'll deliver something and everyone's happy. Oh, this looks awesome. This is what I wanted. You're happy. The client's happy. And then something will change usually it's around like a week, 2 weeks sort of thing, where they've talked to some people, or they've talked to, one of their mates who they get a lot of their influence from or whatever. And they're like, oh, you know what? I don't really like the black and white. And you're just like, oh, okay, cool, I guess we can change it, sort of thing. And then you're having that hanger on sort of thing. Or it's like you have a client and they're like, oh, we love the edits. And then like a month later, they've sat on it and they're like, hey, look, I liked this because it was like a trend a month ago or 2 months ago, but I don't really like it now. Is there anything that we can do? You can have those stipulations in your contract where, hey, look, if you don't like this after a month, we can re-edit at a fee or whatever. But those sometimes do happen, and it's better just to setting expectations is just so important, like so important, especially in this industry.
And being able to like understand the work, like you're the one that's in the editing process and you understand how long things take. Yeah. And sometimes clients don't understand because they haven't done it before. Idea.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And it's good to have things in writing, because then you know what you have to do, like the work's there, and if there's any discrepancies, you can always refer back to it.
Yeah.
And if something needs to be added to what's written, you can then charge more, right? Because it's not in there. A good example for me was I had a client who needed a ton of videos done because they had heaps of products. They had it was like 100 plus products, and they wanted a little tutorial on each product. So it was only a minute video of them talking, explaining the product, but it was over 100 videos that they wanted to put on the website or an app or something. And it was like, cool, let's do it. It was done. 100 plus videos. We started making them, and then they said, actually, the discussion was, should we add captions to these videos? And we were in a meeting. I called in for a meeting, and the discussion between them, I was just listening in, was should we add captions or not? And I could have just sat there as a creative guy, just let myself get told what to do. We'd already agreed on the contract. I could have sat there and said nothing and just copped it, but I butted in, and I was like, guys, you need to understand what you're deciding on here. We're making 100 plus videos. To add captions, adding captions might take 5 to 10 minutes, like depending on how you do it. If we do it 100 plus times, think of how many hours is being put in just for captions, and that's an X amount of hours extra
to pay.
The boss is going to be paying me. Yeah. So like this is a big financial decision that you're making, and I don't think you realize.
Yeah.
And none of you guys are paying me. It's like the dude that owns the company does.
Yeah.
But you need to realize that's a like $1,000 plus decision that you're making.
Yeah.
Do you really need it or do you not? And don't be afraid to just jump in and be like, hey man, this is my time we're talking about. It's not something that you can just throw around and be like,
you still have a voice.
Let's give Kenny an extra 10 hours of work.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of it, because we think captions are cool. It's like, yeah, captions are cool, but my time's valuable as well. And if you want not just cap, but any kind of changes that are outside of what's agreed on, you need to be able to speak up and let people know about the process. And the thing is, they don't know. They don't know
Yeah.
that edit takes X amount of time.
That amount of time.
Or to add whatever it is they want added in takes X amount of time. So communication is massive.
Yeah.
And not being afraid to communicate, as a lot of us, I struggle with sometimes too, just going in a shell and just wanting to please everyone and just say yes to everything.
Yeah.
And then charging a rate at the beginning and then realizing that it's taking way longer than you thought it was going to take. And your rate initially was based on what you thought it was going to take. It ends up taking 5 times longer. And by the end of it, you hate it. You hate everything about it.
That's the remorse too, I guess, that creatives get, is like not charging enough for jobs. You do the job and you turn up and then you're just like, oh shit, I did not charge enough for this. This is going to be a nightmare sort of thing.
Yep.
Sometimes you only find out that when you're actually there on the day or shooting or whatever or in the edit.
Yep. And again, that's something you can always, when those things happen to me, I was like, this could have been avoided if I did more work beforehand.
Yeah.
At the beginning, I should have asked more questions. I should have had more clarity on what they wanted so that I could have gauged this better on what to price. I always blame myself because I could have done a better job.
It's pretty much just like measure twice, cut once. It's the same principle, really. Like, as long as you do that little bit extra work at the start in pre-production, you're going to be miles ahead when it comes to delivering final product. But out of I'm up to like over 150 now, but out of that many weddings, I've only had about 3 really bad things go wrong. Another time was like I had a card fail, which is really upsetting.
Afterwards.
Yeah, afterwards, like a corrupted card, which was messed up because I'd missed all of the ceremony up to the end of reception, maybe just before reception. So I'd missed like first kiss, I'd missed photo shoot on this main camera, which is 35mm. Great. Anyway. So yeah, I'd missed first kiss, I'd missed ceremony, I'd missed photo shoot, like all the good stuff, all the candids, everything like that. Luckily, however, the groom was very understanding. He had also, and at the time I was like, fuck man, what uncles with cameras, you know? He had this team of his uncles with video and photos come in and film. And it was so lucky that they were there because they got everything that I had missed. So
Wow.
the groom was like, yep, look, it happens, completely understand. We still gave them a fantastic album, but the uncles were there. You know, the
Damn,
uncles
to
with the
save the
Digicam,
day.
they saved the day. That's the first and only time I've ever seen an uncle save the day. Usually they're in the road and you're like, hey man, like, can you just get out of the way? Like, I need to get the first dance and stuff, like
Yeah.
everything like that. But that in that particular instance, they did save the day. And I was very thankful for that.
Wow.
Because that saved my bacon. Like,
I can imagine.
if you lose, like, they're paying thousands of dollars at the end of the day. Like, and it's a once in a lifetime thing. You can't go back and be like, oh, hey guys, like, I missed a shot. Is there any chance that you guys could go kiss again
Yeah, the
or walk
pressures.
down? You know,
That's why I don't like him.
I love them. So good. But yeah, you can get sued at the end of the day. Like, it's if you can't deliver on the on your end. But
I've heard debate over this one thing about weddings.
yeah,
I've seen. You could help me here.
Okay.
I've seen weddings where there's a rule where people aren't allowed to take photos with their phone. Like, they don't want phones out, and the camera guys then have to tell like the aunties and everyone to put their phone away, and people get really upset because they're like, well, we should be allowed to take photos. I think the argument is the bride and groom don't want all these photos with like just phones everywhere.
yeah.
Have you experienced this before?
Oh yeah, definitely.
What's right? What's wrong? Like, what's
This might be a controversial opinion. It probably is, but the wedding day isn't about the photographer. It's not about you. You're meant to be like a fly on the wall for most of the wedding, and you're meant to get shots that no one else gets. There's points during the wedding where it's all about the photo shoot and that sort of thing. So then you can take control. But the guests, it's pretty much just about the bride and groom and all the friends and family. Like, it's their day. So if they want to have their phones out, that's fine. I'm going to keep them in the images, like, and then at an extra cost, you can Photoshop them out or whatever. But unless the bride and groom stipulates that, hey, this is an unplugged wedding, we don't want phones, or we've paid, $10,000 for these videographers and photographers to be here to get it properly. We don't want.
It seems fair. I didn't understand at the start, but when it got explained to me, I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
This one I will say, one of my favorite weddings, gorgeous couple. They're meant to be like, you can tell in a lot of weddings. During the ceremony, the auntie of the bride had this gigantic iPad, and she was in the center aisle, and she it's coming to the first kiss, and she literally pops out, and she's got her iPad, and she's like ting 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 ting, and I was like, fuck, in my head. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Get the fuck out of the way. But I was like, Tita, can you just get across? And so I tried to, and that was I think that's probably one of the only times where I've been a lead photographer and I've had to say, hey guys, can we just get one more? Like just one more for the photo? Because that she was right in the way. And I've still got the photos at home, and I was just like, holy shit. Like those times I don't like phones and photos. There is a trend where you can turn the phones into chickens and shit. But for me, it should, like, a wedding is a celebration about two families coming together and love. And so you're holding that celebration for your friends and family. So if they want to film it, and sometimes that's nice, like these guys might get something that we miss. So, and then they get it on social media, like straight away sort of thing. That's why that content creator wedding thing has taken off, because you get it straight away. But to me, it's not a big deal. Only if you stand like in the center of the aisle when I'm taking a picture or whatever, and they're doing something important like a first kiss or a family photo or something like that. Yep. But to me, it's fine, unless the bride and groom say otherwise.
Fair.
But
makes sense.
Yeah.
I still wouldn't do a wedding either way.
We're about to, bro.
I know. I'm excited. I'm excited.
That's
going
to be a fun one. Some weddings are the best.
Yeah, and they're cool people.
They're the best. They're so good.
It'll be fun.
So much food too. Dancing, love it.
Yep, I'm looking forward to it.
But yeah, anyway, client experiences.
Process. Let's name a few things you can do before, a few things during, and a few things after a photo shoot or any kind of shoot that you could do that can enhance a client experience.
Before, again, communication. Like say you're working with a model, it's like same as like setting up a date. It's like any relationship. Hey, so excited for this photo shoot. Like, it's going to be so good. We're meeting here, like clear directions about where to meet up, who's going to be there, what to bring, everything like that. Say if they need different changes of clothes, that sort of thing.
Or even little things. I went to a shoot and the organizer told us where to park. They said it's really hard to park there. Go on this street, this street, this street.
Easy, love that.
Little things like that
helps
go
so
a
much.
Really long way. I think a more personalized touch for me, whenever someone reaches out to me, I'm going to work with someone for the first time.
Yeah.
The first thing I want to do is meet them in person.
Yes.
I'm trying so hard.
Even if it's just like a call over Zoom.
Yeah. Well, that's option 2. So for me, it's like, let's meet in person.
Yeah.
If they can't or they don't want to, it's a Zoom call, like
They've
something face to face.
Yeah.
Last option, and I try not to, is a phone call, email.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really important. Something like, again, it's the difference of there are businesses and people out there, when someone reaches out, they send you a questionnaire.
Yeah.
Which can work, especially if let's say you're a massive business and you're getting lots of inquiries. But if you're just starting out, I think a questionnaire sucks.
Yeah.
Because it sounds so generic. Like, it shows that you don't really care. It's like, hey, can you just fill this out so that I can filter and decide whether I want to work with you or not? Which for some people makes them feel important. But if you're trying to find like long-term clients and show them that you care, we're meeting in person. I need to be sitting in front of you because it shows that I want to take time out of my day. I care, and I want to know more about you.
Yeah, adding that personal touch. They want to work with you, right? Like they're choosing you over the thousands of other photographers and videographers in Sydney.
Yes.
So that's like one point of difference that you can...
You got to realize that, right? There's thousands of us.
Yeah.
In Sydney, there's heaps.
Yeah.
Then they could choose any of them. any, and yeah. But I think about that all the time. They could choose so many people that are going to give them work just as good as mine. And a lot of the time, and I've been told what separates, like why I chose, maybe it was the PT thing as well, but it's like I could ask anyone to do these photos for me, Quinn, but I want you to do it because I feel like I know you seem like a cool guy. Everything I've heard about you has all been positive.
It's all a lie.
It's not, but it's not about the result. I know that I could ask someone else and get photos that are probably just as good, that I'd be just as happy with, but I want you.
Yeah.
And you have to not take that for granted.
Yeah, that's like, especially if you're just working for yourself, that's a huge thing, like personal branding and everything, and being approachable. Make that extra effort and it'll pay off in the long run.
And people build up expectations. Like if someone said, work with Quinn, he's a great guy, like he's so good to it. You build up this thing, Quinn's like this cool guy, and then you reach out and I just get sent a automatic questionnaire and I don't hear back from you in
until the
days.
Day of maybe, or
and I'm like, oh man, I had this built up expectation that this was going to be a cool experience, and now it's kind of died real quick.
Yeah.
Even though the photos are going to turn out just as good, it's not about the result all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still a level of quality that you want to have in your work, like obviously, but those things are so important.
It's a good way to make it, like any shoot, that build up and that lead up to it. It's a good way to make it exciting too, and to get your talent in, like ready and involved and wanting to do it.
Come with energy, show that you can do some research before you meet them.
Yeah.
So if I plan to meet you, before I meet you, I'm doing as much research as I can.
Yeah.
To find out if it's a business, I want to know what type of content they're posting. What have they tried to be posting anything cool? Have they done anything creative? What are their goals? What are they selling? What are ways that I think I could improve this? If this was my page and my business, what would I do differently? And then write those things. It doesn't take that too long. No. It doesn't take too long for you to come across as someone who cares. Yeah. So when you show up to that meeting or that phone call, you start bringing things up and they will notice immediately, holy shit, this guy actually knows about what I do. Again, creates an enhanced customer experience. This guy cares. This guy knows what I sell. He's giving me tips already about what I could be doing better or what I'm doing well already. Like you don't have to spend all day, but a little bit goes a long way because it's way better than nothing. And again, it's noticeable and it's unexpected. They think they're just jumping on a call, and then you've got all these notes about content that they can do, content that they can't do.
Their history,
I think that's huge, and that's before the shoot completely. And then making them feel involved.
Yeah.
So when you're creating mood boards or shot lists, make them feel like they're a part of the process because that vision is theirs.
How much involvement do you think you should give? Because a lot of the times they have a vision, a creative vision or whatever, but it's not. I mean, that's why they're hiring you, right? Yeah. So how much involvement do you think they should have, or you should give them? Because then is there a breakdown as well if you give them too much involvement or too much control? Not
really, unless I know for sure that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
I try to give them as much as possible because then sometimes it gets frustrating because I'm like, I would have done this completely differently.
Yep.
But if they're paying you, it's their video at the end of the day.
True.
Like it's their work. So if they want changes, if they want a particular type of music or anything, because again, I understand it's subjective. I may like something that you may not, and there's no right or wrong. So there are times I just have to keep it in, and I'm like, you know what? It's their video. They're paying for it. It should be what. And if this is exactly what they want, then they're going to be happy. Like at the end of the day, they're the ones that need to be happy because they're paying for it. It's an exchange of value. If you're giving them, if they're giving you money and they're not getting what they asked for, again, bad client experience. So if they're really happy with what you made, and it's not exactly what you wanted it to be, sometimes that's a sacrifice that's worth taking. A lot of the times, I just feel better that I gave the suggestion.
Yeah.
And if they like take it or leave it.
So you had some input.
Yeah. So I'm like, I've done this before. This has worked really, really, really well. But it's up to you whether or not you want to do it. Maybe that's not the kind of approach that you want. And I feel better just by saying that because then I feel like I've done my part. I've done my part. This is what I think works. I've done this many times. But if not, then that's cool. It's your video, not mine.
Have you ever had the, hey, this is great, but can we change the music before?
Yeah, it hurts my soul. And again, it's something that I mess up every time. It hasn't happened many times, actually. Yeah. I can think of like 3, and it was so long ago because I nipped it in the bud.
That's good. Yeah. Learning from your mistakes is a huge quality.
Like I always say, especially with video, before I make it, I'm like, give me music.
Yes.
Give me a playlist. Doesn't have to be the exact song, but let me know what you like.
Yeah.
The style of it, and then I will choose from either give me a playlist and I'll pick one of them, or just tell me what you like so I can because that's a big deal. It can make or break what a client sees when they or what they
and
feel.
the editing style.
Yeah, when they see your video and they ask to change it, and they've just added hours to your work.
Essentially start all over again. Yeah.
It's so true. So then I've learned. I emphasize it. Give me music. I'm not going to start working until you give me music.
the music comes.
Yeah. Totally. Again, it's setting that expectation and letting them know this is how it works.
Yeah.
And they don't. Again, it's another thing that they don't think is a big deal.
Yeah, they don't because they don't know the process.
So it's bad. You make them the edit.
Yeah.
And then you send it to them, and then they post it with like some other random song over the top
and
of it.
And it doesn't work at all.
It doesn't work, and it kills me.
They just use like trending audio or something.
Because I think some people are too scared. They're also too scared to tell you that they didn't like the song.
Yeah, that's
true. Or
true.
they're not happy with it. And they just post it with some other shit over the top. And I'm like, they just made it worse. They could have just told me. And again, I feel like that's my fault sometimes. I should have made them feel more open to giving that type of feedback.
That's another good lesson, especially as like a creator. All the time, so people that I've worked with and worked for and everything, I will tell them, hey man, if this is shit or whatever, just tell me. I would prefer you tell me and tell me what you want, as opposed to saying, hey, this is good, and then you change it later or whatever. Like if it's not good, just tell me and I'll work on it and get better.
Mm-hmm. But it's true. That's something that you have to. That's why I want to meet people at the start, because there's a whole list of things that I want to make clear beforehand, and that's one of them. A lot of the time, when you work for the first time, you don't know this person. You don't want to hurt each other's feelings.
Yes.
And telling someone that their idea sucks, or that you don't like something, is hard to do with a stranger.
Especially with people in our industry, there's like huge egos, soft shells.
Yep.
Like soft shell. Anyway, that like you can hurt someone's
feelings.
You can hurt someone's feelings, and then they never like I know some people that haven't shot ever again after a really bad experience.
But and those things happen where you give someone work, and because you haven't broken that barrier, they're too scared to say that they're unhappy with it, or they would have made some changes, and they take it, they're unhappy, they've paid you for it, but they're never coming back.
Yeah.
Because you never broke that down. So I say exactly what you said. Like, I don't get offended easily. Like, tell me, as creatives, we've got so many ideas. So I've got millions of ideas. So if I say something,
I've seen the book. Yeah.
If I say something,
he's got this little book and he just writes down everything in it, and it's just like, holy shit.
Yeah, there's multiple books.
Yeah,
that's just one.
That's one. That's the first one. Yeah.
But by telling people, like, if you don't like this idea, I am totally fine. Tell me it sucks. Please tell me it sucks.
We'll change it. We'll do something else.
I've got so many more. And I think when you talk to someone and you tell them that you're open to criticism, it then almost makes them feel okay with it too. Like they then become open to criticism also.
But again, it has to be constructive. It can't just be like, this is shit. Yeah. Okay, cool. Why is it shit? Oh, I don't know. It's just shit. And you're like, cool. All right. Again, that's a communication breakdown.
Yeah. What about during a shoot? What are some things that you could do to
professionalism?
Add a little sprinkle of professionalism, turning up the right way.
Looking a certain part if you need to. Energy, keeping the energy high. Yep. Again, it depends on different jobs.
You're basically the, what did my girlfriend call it? The vibe coordinator.
Yeah, especially for the vast majority of people, they don't like being in front of the camera. So it's your job to bring that energy out of people so that they enjoy it.
You've got to take the lead.
Yeah. Whether it's for photo or video, people should go away being like, oh man, that photographer, he was awesome, or she was awesome. They did such a great job. Like, I've never really liked having my picture taken or my video.
You're almost a host.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a really good skill to have. I guarantee you, if you do a great job at one event, if you're an event photographer or videographer or whatever, and you do an amazing job and you're seen and you leave people with this fantastic warm fuzzy feeling, there will be one person at that event who'll be like, oh shit, I'm having this thing, whatever it is. Could be a baptism, it could be a wedding, it could be a birthday party, or it could be a whatever. There's endless amounts, but there will be one person that will refer you or who will need your services, and you will get a job off this one job. That's been my experience. There's
Mm-hmm.
always one job, especially at weddings. Everyone at a wedding, there will be like a couple of couples who are looking for a photographer or videographer, and if they see you doing a great job and everyone's having fun, and then they see the final result, they'll be like, "Holy shit, we want Sam and Kate's bloody wedding photographer or videographer." Like same thing, and businesses too.
But it's true. You're right. A lot of people may not remember everything you said. They might not even remember your name, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
Yes, and they'll remember the energy, and they'll
Yes.
be like, "Oh, I don't feel drained. I feel really good. Like, what is that feeling?" It was Kenny. He was so good, and you know, he made me feel so awesome. Like, oh, and then the photos come through, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I want to hire this guy again." Like, if you that's your job. I think that's a bigger part to photo and video than actually just
Huge.
being a good photographer. Like, you can be an awesome photographer, but if your personality's shit, or if it's very introverted and subdued, I don't think you'll get far. You might with, like, say, landscape stuff where you're alone, but if you're trying to work with people, you need to have people skills, personality, that sort of thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's very. I think it's also knowing that it's not easy to be in front of a camera. It's very hard. For
Yeah, I
most
mean, well,
people.
like the other day, we tried. Well, I mean, we are trying. Like, we're getting better, but
but it's not easy.
it's not easy. It's hard, and it takes time. Yeah. Again, this is just my personal experience, but one of the biggest things that you can do, if you can bring us like a portable speaker and you can have music and set the vibe that way,
Totally.
that will take the edge off.
Big. There's a
It's
big
a massive
difference.
thing. Yeah.
Shooting a photo shoot, especially with models, I've found,
Yeah.
in silence and with
It's
music,
not good.
it's
Yeah.
not even close.
Well, especially for models, right? You should be directing them. Obviously, it depends on their skill level and your skill level and everything like that. But you should be giving them direction, and you should be, you know, making them at ease, because it's a scary thing sometimes. Like, you're meeting up with a stranger and you're going to take my picture.
Totally.
But if you set music up and you're like,
Yes.
"Oh, hey, what's your favorite music?" or whatever, you put on some K-pop, that sort of thing. and
That's
you're
a
just like-
big win.
Yeah.
Big win.
That is something that I don't see enough photographers do. And then whenever I pull one out, they're like, "Oh shit, that's an awesome idea."
Yeah. No one
They're
thinks
cheap
of it.
too. It's like, you know,
Yep.
$100 for a little portable speaker, and it changes the mood instantly.
That's a game changer.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It sounds stupid, but
Oh,
it's so true.
It does, but honestly, that is one of my biggest tips
Mm-hmm.
and takeaways. Is like, if you just have a portable speaker, regardless of what you're doing, you can just bring it out in moments of awkwardness.
Yep.
Because there will be times when it's like super awkward, and you're just like, hey man, what kind of music are you into? Let's chuck some of that.
Yep.
And you can instantly see that awkward energy just fade away, and they become more relaxed, and then you get better pictures or better video, that sort of thing. So yeah,
It's magic.
makes a big difference.
Yep.
Yeah.
After a shoot,
Communication again.
I think post is probably the most out of the three phases. It's the most important because everything you can nail everything. Everything can be going so well. The shoot, how many times everyone loves a shoot, so it's like vibes are high, energy's high, and then post the delivering part
Yeah.
can just go downhill real fast if you don't do it the right way.
Yeah.
If those expectations aren't set, the whole mood can die really, really quickly.
One thing I would suggest is, regardless of whether it's like a TFP or like if it's a free shoot or paid shoot or whatever, if you don't have a website, there's heaps of free software. Use a software that provides a gallery.
Pixie Set.
Yeah, Pixie Set.
It's
We use
free.
it all the time. It's great. Use something like that. Don't just use Google Drive.
Yeah.
It looks amateurish. Like, it doesn't look professional.
Especially if you want to raise your rates.
Exactly.
You got to. It's the packaging. It's the same. How cool is it when you buy? Like, I get hats all the time.
Yeah.
And when it's packaged well, it comes in a nice box. Like, you're like, oh wow. I end up
Same-
throwing the box away anyway. I'm getting the same
Yeah,
thing.
exactly,
But
yeah.
it's just packaged well.
Yeah,
and
it's
it
a
makes you
experience,
feel good. Yeah,
customer
it's a whole
experience.
experience. There's a little card and a note there that says thank you, like
Yep.
a handwritten note. Oh, it's
Personalized
so good.
emails, that sort of thing. Like, when you're delivering things. Hey, Jessica, I had such a great time with you. Your vibe was amazing. Like, the photos turned out so good. Can't wait to work with you again. Rah, rah, rah. What's another thing? Probably,
just letting like an expectation on when they're going to receive it. And sometimes
Yeah.
people overlook that. And people
Yeah.
are waiting ages and they're not getting it. Whereas you could easily say, look, this is going to take 2 weeks.
It's what, yeah,
Give
it's
'em a- give 'em a
one
day.
email, and then you make sure that you stick to that deadline. Deadlines, very important. Post.
Yep. And then they end up happy. All those things, everything we spoke about has nothing to do with creating better photos.
Yeah, it has nothing to do
None-
with
none of it.
cameras, settings.
Yeah.
the
But if you want to raise,
editing,
if you want to
everything.
raise your rates,
Yeah,
you can be so confident by bringing those rates up when you can create an experience like that.
well, yeah, that's how you're going to make more money. It's not with like being a better editor or a better photographer or whatever.
Yep.
It's going to be in those procedures and that client experience with how much you can charge. Like, yeah,
It makes all the difference. And I think a huge thing that you should be doing after each shoot, or that you should be reflecting back on, is not just the client experience, but your own experience
oh yeah, definitely.
within that. Because there's a lot of times where a client could have an amazing experience and love everything about it, but you could have hated the whole thing. They could have been nagging you and calling you all the time. You could have lost some files, like you were saying, things are corrupted. Anything, like the whole process could have been terrible for you.
Yeah,
Because maybe they were calling you every single day and you felt you had to answer all the time and they were just giving you the shit. At the end of the day, they loved it because they're like, man, Kenny picks up the phone all the time. I
yeah.
can call him whenever I want. He answers all my emails. I asked him to do all this extra shit and he did all of it. He
Yeah.
just said yes to everything. And they were so happy with it. And you hated it. So you have to reflect back on your experience. Did you like it? Did you hate it? And the things you didn't like, how do you fix it? How can I fix that process the next time I do this so that I also have a good experience
yeah.
when I'm doing this? It's not always just about the client experience. It's
Oh
your
yeah,
own
for
as well.
sure. You have to take care of yourself as well. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to do it long term.
Yeah, you don't want to sacrifice client experience for your own.
Yeah, definitely.
That's
Client
true.
expectations,
Yeah.
relationships, it's all important.
I've had that.
I think we've covered like heaps.
We have.
Yeah. We've
We've overshared.
we've overshared. But that's fine. Like that's,
That's what we're here for.
Here to like you guys learn from our mistakes, learn from our stories.
And like I said at the start, you take one or two things out
Yeah.
of everything we said. That's a win for us.
The two things you should take away is
Communication.
communication and client setting expectations.
Yeah.
Those should be the two things.
I think so.
Yeah.
They're the biggest takeaways
Yeah,
that you should always have a focus on. Always.
Yeah.
Always, always, always.
definitely. So yeah, do the extra bit of work and
Yep.
it'll pay off.
And it's good to host. Like you were saying before, you said it last week. I can't wait to have someone on because I just want to make someone feel good and I want to
Yeah,
host.
exactly.
Yeah, it is.
Being a good host is like so important.
Mm.
I just like it because of weddings. But anyway, all right. We'll see you in the next one.
Yep.
Awesome.
Awesome. See you next week.
Yes. See you next week.
Boom.
Nice.